Students, in lesson 7.6, we are going to work on fraction multiplication. So we are going to put together all the skills that we have built as this chapter has progressed, and now we're actually going to be doing the abstract version of what we've been doing with models and with number lines. So our subject question is, how can you multiply fractions? So we're going to start with the unlock the problem real world. The green box here on the side is what we want to keep in mind for when we're analyzing what the problem is telling us. First, how much of the scarf does Sasha have left to knit? And then secondly, of the fraction that is left, how much will she finish today? So let's read about Sasha. Sasha has 3/5 of a scarf left to knit. If she finishes half of that today, how much of the scarf will Sasha knit today? So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply. Again, we hear that word of, and that prompts us to think about multiplication. So we can use one way, which is a model, which we've been practicing as this chapter has gone on. So over here on the side, we see our whole scarf represented by that one rectangle. Then we see 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5. We know that she has 3/5 left. So we need to figure out how to shade that. So it says shade 3/5 of the model yellow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade 3/5 of the model yellow. So this would be 1/5, 2/5, 3/5. Now, boys and girls, it says draw a horizontal line across the rectangle to show two equal parts. And the reason why we're going to draw a horizontal line to show us two equal parts, that's kind of like how we folded with the paper with two equal parts. We're going to just fold this in part, and we are going to draw our horizontal line to show us the half that she's going to use today. So of this yellow part, boys and girls, we're going to shade half of the yellow section blue. So we're going to shade 1, 2, 3. Half of the yellow section is shaded blue. And now what I'm going to do is, excuse me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle in purple our answer. So we know that she has 3 pieces. It says to count the sections that are shaded twice and write the fraction for the parts of the whole that are shaded twice. So in this circle, we see that there are 3 pieces, boys and girls. And then we say to ourselves, well, 3 pieces out of how many? We see there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 pieces. So 3 out of 10 pieces, which is 3/10. Now, boys and girls, it says compare the numerator and the denominator of the product with the numerators and the denominators of the factor. Describe what we noticed. So, boys and girls, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this out here. 1/2 times 3/5, which would be 3 times, sorry, let me rewrite that. 1 times 3 over 2 times 5. So, boys and girls, what we can say is that, boys and girls, is the numerator of the answer, which we got was 3, is the product of the numerators of the factors. 1 times 3, 1 times 3. So the numerator answer is a product of the numerator factors. The denominator of the answer, 10, is the product of the denominators of the factors, which was 2 and 5. So boys and girls, simply multiplying the numerators and then multiplying the denominators and then checking to see if your answer is in simplest form is how we are going to be multiplying fractions. Another way, boys and girls, is we can use paper and pencil. So some of you are ready to go on to this model, and some of you might still like modeling and drawing your number line or your rectangle, boxes, or circles, and those are both okay ways as well. So another way you can multiply the fraction without using the model. So we can see here is that we have multiplying the numerators. So we have 1 times 3, and then we have 2 times 5. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 5 is 10. So Sasha will knit 3/10 of the scarf today. So if you're ready here, boys and girls, I want to just make sure in mind that you're writing the numerator factors over the denominator factors before you jump down and you give me this answer. I want to make sure that you're doing this step in between, because that's where we might be able to simplify and just double check our work and make sure that everything looks good there. Next, connect. Remember, you can write a whole number as a fraction with a denominator of 1. So if we have the number 4, boys and girls, and we wanted to write it as a fraction, we would write it as 4 over 1, because we know 4 divided by 1 is 4. So our example here is 4 times 5/12. Write the product in simplest form. So first it says write the whole number as a fraction. So that's where we write that 4 over 1. Next, multiply the numerators. Very similar to what we did in the previous problem. So we have 4 times 5, and then we would have 1 times 12. Remember, boys and girls, this is a key middle step. We do not want to forget that. Next, we're going to multiply them across, and we get 4 times 5 is 20, and 1 times 12 is 12. Next, boys and girls, we know that 20 twelfths is not simplified. 20 twelfths is not simplified. We know that the greatest common factor of 20 and 12 is 4. So if it's a factor of 12, it means it's divisible by 12. So we're going to say 20 divided by 4 over 4 would give us 5/3, because we can think inversely. 5 times 4 equals 20. 3 times 4 equals 12. So we think to ourselves, boys and girls, how many sets of 3 are inside of 5? There would be 1 set. Because really, boys and girls, this is a division problem. 5 divided by 3 is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. 5 minus 3 is 2. So it is 1 whole time and 2 left over. And we have the answer of 1 2/3. So in this, we see that there's some simplification happening here, and we're factoring out and we're dividing out the greatest common factor. Simplest form is key, boys and girls, to your final answers, because technically if you give the answers 5/3, it would not be in simplest form. 1 2/3 would be in simplest form. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to practice some algebra and think about these fraction problems in terms of algebra problems. So what it says is that evaluate C times 4/5 when C is equal to 5/8. So what does the number C represent? Well, according to here, boys and girls, C represents 5/8. Now, next step, boys and girls, it says replace C in the expression with 5/8, because we know that's what it's equal to. So I'm going to plug that here in the side, and that's going to be my first fraction factor. Now we're going to multiply the numerators just like we did before, boys and girls. So it's going to be 5 times 4. Remember, the numerators need to be multiplied by each other on top. Denominators multiplied on the bottom. 8 times 5. 5 times 4 is 20. 8 times 5 is 40. Now, it says write the product in simplest form. Well, we know 20 40ths is not in simplified form, boys and girls. We know that we can divide 20 out of the top and the bottom, because that's the greatest common factor. 20 divided by 20 is 1, and 40 divided by 20 is 2. And we can think inversely. 1 times 20 equals 20. 2 times 20 equals 40. So, boys and girls, if we were to write our answer in simplest form, we would say our answer is a half. So, C times 4/5 is equal to 1/2, for C is equal to 5/8. Now lastly, boys and girls, it's saying since 4/5 is being multiplied by a number less than 1, should the product be greater than or less than 4/5? So this is really connecting what we were doing yesterday. So remember, 4/5 is a small fraction. 5/8 is another small fraction. That means that the product will have to be smaller than the separate factors. So what we can say is less than 4/5, comma, a fraction less than 1 multiplied by a fraction less than 1 will result in a product less than either factors. So if you still would like to use the models, you can still use the models, but if you like to move away from the models and use the paper and pencil form, you can do that as well.